Sweet. Alright kids, I'm under the bridge. The reason I'm under the bridge is because it's windy out here and I'm on a hike and I didn't want to go home yet. A good friend of mine, Catherine, many years ago, I remember living in Biloxi on the beach, and I would get upset that when it got really windy outside. And she corrected my viewpoint on this. She said that it's all perception and that you just have to consider that wind as a gift from God, increasing your workload. It's like natural resistance. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. Going outside and running in the wind is like adding a few pounds to your ankles. But it's a natural process, and that if you shift your perspective, then you'll shift your experience. So I really appreciated just learning that lesson, and that was like 15 years ago, and I still remember it like it was today. So anyway, so I'm under this cool bridge here on Doudy Trail, D-O-U-D-Y, for those that might want to Google it. And I'm hoping that it masks the wind just a little bit. And what I want to talk about is a little controversial, because I'm going to tell you to, if you're a smoker, that you should not quit smoking unless you know why. So, because I really don't think that you can quit smoking unless you know why. And I'm very passionate about this subject for a few reasons. The primary reason is because I feel that, oh, this is going to be a good video. I feel that both of my parents are going to die, that their lifespans are going to be compromised or shortened because of cigarette smoke. I also feel like, in a way, my own life may, just from secondhand cigarette smoke. I feel that, well, I can tell you both my parents smoked throughout my entire childhood. My dad has had severe health issues regarding the cigarette smoke. And so has my mother. My dad had a heart attack when he was 50. He's got cardiovascular disease, small vessels that have become prematurely tightened or occluded because of, partly because of cigarette smoke. And my mother has lung masses, and incidentally, so do I. And the way that I found out that I had lung mass, or masses, one is pretty significant in size, is because the hospital that I work at gives a deal to the employees once a year for Heart Month, that you can get a CAT scan of your heart to determine your score of the calcium in your heart, and whether or not there's built up plaque within your vessels. So I took advantage of this about 3 years ago, and surprisingly, I had no calcium within my heart. My heart score was 0, which was what you'd want it to be. But they had an incidental finding of a lung mass. And this is about the same time that my mother had diagnostic imagery and found out that she has some also. So basically, with mine and with hers, the doctors are basically just watching to make sure that they don't morph in size and enlarge or travel to other places of my body, so, which may or may not happen. And I'm prepared for this. And so, throughout most of my childhood, I was exposed to secondhand cigarette smoke, really without me wanting that. And then as I became an adult, I got a job in a bar, and I played pool throughout my life, and I was a poker dealer in the casinos for a long time, and this is before they made poker rooms non-smoking. So I had a cigarette here and a cigarette here from both of the players. So even when, as an adult, I chose not to smoke, I was still exposed to a high level of secondhand cigarette smoke at my own volition. Which in retrospect made it to where I had chronic strep throat and sore throats throughout the year. I probably had 5 or 6 sore throat or throat infections almost every year for about 10 years. And I've been a nurse for about 12 years, and I'm hardly ever sick. One of the reasons is because I get to wash my hands 2,000 times a day. And if someone's coughing, I get to wear a mask, and I can make these choices for myself to protect me and my patients. You can't do that as a poker dealer. You can't sit there with gloves on and a mask or a respirator while you're dealing poker, because you probably wouldn't have your job for very long. But anyway, I'm just trying to say that I have also been exposed to a lot of secondhand smoke, and I appreciate the fact that I'm in an occupation now that that does not exist for me. Every year as a young man, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, my parents would ask me, "What do you want for Christmas?" And once I started having a heightened awareness of things in my life, and I chose to let this wind die down for a second. Sorry about that. So basically, I would choose to tell my parents that what I wanted for Christmas was for them to quit smoking. And at some point, my dad did, after he had a heart attack, and my mom did for quite a few years, and then she went through some stress in her life and started smoking again. She did this to piss the guy off, and now it's 10 plus years later, and he's long gone, and she's still smoking. So I don't think he's too pissed off about her decision now. I think maybe she's more pissed off than he is about it. So I just kind of wanted to preface this a little bit. So yesterday I got an email from a really good friend of mine, and she told me that she's that she'd like to quit smoking again, and that she's Michael here. I'm going to try and finish a video that I was making a few days ago, and it was super windy outside. So hopefully that one came out okay, so that I can attach it to the front of this, because it prefaced why it is I feel so emotionally and strongly about cigarette smoking, other than the fact that I'm a healthcare professional and I'm supposed to. But I just wanted to go on and continue the video that I was trying to make. And basically the reason that I'm making this video is because a good friend of mine sent me an email, and she basically voiced that she was wondering if I had a viewpoint on how it is she could quit smoking. And the reason is because the reason she sent me the email is because she says in her lifetime she has had numerous times where she has tried or successfully quit smoking. 3 months, 6 months. So we know that she can get past the physical addictive process of the nicotine. What she has a problem with is the emotional addiction, or the behavioral addiction, or the ties that hold her to the desire to smoke cigarettes. And I guess this is what she was inquiring and wanted to know if I had an answer for, because she says that she actually likes who she is better as the cigarette smoker. She has experience of her being a non-cigarette smoking person and a cigarette smoking person, and she prefers the cigarette smoking person. She likes herself better as the person that smokes. I don't know exactly what it is that she likes better, whether or not, and she's about, I'm guessing 35, 40 years old, so it's not that it's the peer pressure, or she's on the introverted side, so I don't think she really cares about what other people think about her in that way. I think that the cigarette just has become part of her identity, and it comforts her, and it's something that she appreciates, she enjoys, she likes. It makes her feel good. It gives her a good sense of a good feeling inside of her emotionally, and it probably is also a component of her reducing the size of her waves in blast type scenarios where she's bored, lonely, angry, sad, stressed, or tired, and she has the cigarette, and the cigarette is actually something that it's a tool, a functional tool that helps her overcome some of these blast scenarios. And if you look at my other video on the wave and becoming an observer, basically what the cigarette is the cigarette is an action. So when she has the wave response and it crests, and then she feels that she's in this distress either because of an experience or an event or a thought that creates an emotion, that creates an urge to stop that negative emotion. The cigarette is a very functional tool for that. But the problem is, for her, is that it's not a healthy tool, and it's actually exceptionally unhealthy. And if one of your goals is to be alive and to live a long, healthy life, then you have to figure out a way to find a better tool and to let this one go. Now, if those aren't your goals, if you don't care how long you live, if you don't have a desire to have experiences in the future, like playing with your grandchildren or seeing your kids get married or whatever these things are, or just living to old age and living a full lifespan, if those aren't your goals, then you might not want to quit smoking. Nobody can make you do anything you don't want to do. If you don't value life, and you don't value your life, and you don't value the longevity of your life and the wellness and having a healthy vessel to traverse time, then it would be silly for me to tell you that you should stop smoking because I know that it's going to cut your lifespan short, and because those are my values, I shouldn't be passing my values and judgments on to you. I don't want to be your critic. I don't want you to be my critic. But if you do value these things, and you feel like there's maybe something that you're missing, or maybe a tool or tools that you can implement to help you achieve the goal because you actually do want to quit smoking, then I might be able to do something for you. I might have a viewpoint that helps shift yours into letting the cigarettes go. And that may or may not happen with my friend with this video. 10,000 people may watch it. I may help one person. Then I feel like me spending the morning to create this video and post it on YouTube was a successful endeavor and a positive experience for me, and hopefully for them as well. Now, hopefully the number is a little higher than 1 or 0, but I don't know. I'm just doing this because I'm willing to make myself vulnerable, and I'm able to electronically express how I feel and the things that I feel passionate about, and this is one of them. I would like for you to have a greater health and wellness and well-being. This is to my friend and to people that I don't know that may or may not be watching this video. So I also created other videos. So I would recommend watching the wave video so that you can have a little bit better understanding of what it is I mean by that, because I think that that's to the point of actually mending yourself, is that you have to learn how to become an observer and have a high level of awareness so that you could figure out a way to not actually do these harmful behaviors. So for those that don't know, mend yourself is move, educate, nourish, decompress. These are the 4 components that I think that you need to do at a baseline level every day, throughout every day, in order to have a heightened level of health and happiness and well-being and longevity in your life, if you're that fortunate to achieve that. But I also created another video called Press If Happy. And Press If Happy is my own personal philosophy that I use throughout every day, and I have for a decade and a half, maybe 20 years now, 15, 20 years. And basically what I'd like to do is go through Press If Happy, and in this case, Press If Healthy, press if healthy enough, or press to stop smoking cigarettes, press if to help stop smoking cigarettes. And this may or may not give a little bit further explanation of, if I were trying to quit smoking, this is what I would do. I would journal every day, at least once a day. And the journal would be very specific, and it would use the press if philosophy to help guide me in my journaling, to give me a heightened level of awareness of what it is I'm doing as far as the actions I'm taking, and also to observe the emotions and the desires and the goals that I actually really do have in life. And I would also, in situations of addictive processes or things that you're actually trying to change, I would also give an awareness to what the negative implications of those are. So let me just show real quick. So Press If is, I don't like this brown pen. Let me get a different pen. Which one looks good here? So PRESSIF. Boom, 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 boom. Press If Happy. So this is physical, relational, emotional, social, spiritual, intellectual, and financial. So in Press If Happy, I recommend, and I actually do this before every meal, this is kind of like a gratitude prayer or an awareness of the things that are going well in my life. And I'm not going to go into it because I already have another video on it. But I think that if you were to quit smoking, what you should do is just kind of consider this as a baseline template of what it is that cigarette smoking positives and negatives, or here we can do this. And this is pretty, I believe, pretty easy to achieve, and most people are aware of these things when you tell them, but it's not something that they really think about or that they contemplate on their own lives and on a regular basis, you know. So the problem is, if you're trying to influence change in other people, or if you're trying to influence change on yourself, you have to implement many facets of of influence, not just one. You can't just tell yourself, I'm going to quit smoking at next Monday, and that be it. You have to have social motivation. You have to have external change in your environment. You may have to not go to the bar for a while where everybody's smoking. You may have to actually change your social your social friends. You know, if that's the case, if everybody's smoking and you really need to get past this initial stage, because sometimes it's really hard to make these changes when you have the influence of others so strongly around you, especially when it's connected to things that you do on a daily basis, like waking up in the morning, like going to sleep, like every time you eat, like getting in the car. I mean, smoking is a prolific, profound. It's everywhere. Everybody does it, and you know it's hard. It's hard to get around it in a social situation. So, or especially if your primary relationship, if your significant other is going to continue to smoke and you stop, that would just seem to be exceptionally hard to do without a very, very high level of awareness and a knowledge of why it is that you want to do this. You have to have a desire for it. So, and speaking of desire, I'm not going to go too much into this because I really wanted to get into PRESSIF, but most desire, and I heard this on a video from Elliot Hulse recently. He's on YouTube. He's got like 1,000 videos. So I would recommend, you know, maybe looking at some of his videos. He talks mostly about strength training, but he also talks about personal motivation. And one of his videos answering a question from somebody that sent in an email was about motivation. So he says about 90% of motivation is a push motivation, where you're basically trying to get away from something because it's pushing you, or it's like a fear response. So basically 90% is you trying to get away from pain as far as motivation is concerned. So it's like the barking dog coming at you, and your motivation is to get away from the barking dog. In the terms of cigarette smoking and health and wellness in general, the barking dog may be a medical diagnosis that your doctor just gave you. Your doctor says, hey, I won't even be your doctor anymore if you don't continue to quit smoking. Or you're going to die if you don't quit smoking. That's a push motivation. That's a big chunk. That's 90%. So those are the things that you're trying to run away from, you're trying to get away from. The other 10% are things that actually you want and that you're pulled towards. And that's, I believe, what PRESSIF Happy helps you achieve. It helps you realize what is that 10% of things that you don't need the barking dog on your ass to go get it, because you actually want these things so bad. You're going to go towards them. You're going to walk towards them. You're going to lunge towards them. You know. But if one of those 10% of motivation is not health and wellness and longevity and life and being alive, if you don't even desire that, then I probably can't convince you to quit smoking. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what this 10% of motivational components are that you're actually pulled towards. Not the things that, not the things that are pushing you. Now, some of these things are actually probably push motivation, but let's just go through. So we'll talk about physical. And this is in the terms of cigarette smoking. I don't even know how to spell cigarette. Let's just say smoking. We're going to give this a frowny face too, because that's how I feel about it. So, are there any physical benefits to smoking. I'm not going to try too hard to discover one, but I guess a physical benefit, the argument could be that you look cooler 50 years ago on TV, you know, and who knows, maybe that was just Philip Morris putting millions of dollars into product placement even 50 years ago. I don't know, but some people may argue, hey, you look cooler. So I can't think of too many other reasons that cigarette smoking would be a good thing physically. But we can think of many, many negative things as far as cigarette smoking, as far as increasing your chance of cardiovascular disease, increasing your chance of stroke, skin infections, less healing. I mean, there's just, the list goes on and on and on. So if this video doesn't get too long, I'll go into that. But I mean, obviously, there's like, you know, so there's like plenty of reasons to quit smoking physically. I think most people can agree with this. So relationally, negative effects of cigarette smoking. I'm a single person, and I could say that I know that if I were to get on a dating website or start dating somebody, one of the first questions or one of the first things I want to know is whether or not they smoke cigarettes. Because if they do, then I also know that the 10% of that pull motivation is that they don't value their life enough to make good decisions in this regard. And what I want in a relationship is to have a partner to grow old with. And I think that it's good decision making for me to not put myself in a position where I'm attached to somebody throughout our lifetimes together and they're likely to lose 20 to 30% of their lifespan because of cigarette smoking. Now, that's my personal preference. Not everybody feels that way. So I think that there are costs, there are negative things, relationship-wise, if you're a cigarette smoker, especially if there's a conflict between you and your spouse where she does not want you to smoke. Maybe you smoke behind her back. Maybe she does the same thing to you. Then you have an issue of trust, mistrust, deception, which definitely can't be a good thing for a relationship. Also, relationships with parents, brothers, sisters, that kind of thing. Like I spoke of earlier in the preface to this video, is that, you know, I feel like I'm going to, my time on this earth with my parents is diminished because of cigarette smoking, or very likely will be. And that's, you know, it's unfortunate, you know, but it is what it is. And people make their own decisions, and all I can do is voice my concern and my my hope that they would quit, and that's all I can do. You know, I can only use the small amount of influence that I have in order to get them to make better decisions, and then I have to let it go. You know, so that's all there is with that. You know, on the other side, is there any positive aspects to cigarette smoking in relationships? If you are with a partner that doesn't value longevity in life and is willing to sacrifice that part of life in order to be able to smoke cigarettes, and you feel the same way, and you both agree and think that this is something that is a non-issue, then it's a non-issue, you know. And in that case, maybe you shouldn't quit smoking. But you know, if it's preventing you from getting the relationship that you want, then you know, then that's a strong motivator. So emotionally, as my friend said, she feels like she likes who she is. She likes that version of herself better. So she actually, has convinced herself that there's a positive emotional benefit to cigarette smoking. And if you look at the wave, and this is negative emotion here, and this crest here, and right here is where she's putting in right here is where she's smoking. And it's actually allowing her to diminish this wave here. Then she's actually right. In this way, the cigarette smoking is producing a positive emotional effect for her. But the thing is that if also at the same time she values life, then there's a contradiction. And that contradiction is larger than the positive emotional benefit of her being able to reduce this wave by cigarette smoking. So what she needs here is she needs to learn how to become an observer and have awareness. She needs to have an awareness of these things. She has to have an awareness of these things. She has to have an awareness of that 10% of what it is that she actually is driven to in her lifetime. And she needs to let this go. But that's only if she wants to live. So, so basically, that's it here as far as emotional. Social, everybody at bars smokes. Everybody that's sitting around watching the Super Bowl, right? Well, no, that's actually not right. I live in Boulder, Colorado. Hardly anybody smokes here. I've worked all over the country. I've worked in Las Vegas, Los Angeles, Memphis, New Orleans, Biloxi. I've worked Kansas City. I've worked all over the place. A lot of places, people are unhealthy. A lot of places, people smoke. Here, not so much, which is one of the reasons that I live here, which is also one of the reasons that I am not in Kansas City or New Orleans or Memphis, is simply because of cigarette smoking. I was a poker dealer in a casino for 10 years before I was a nurse. I've been a nurse for 12 years now. And there was always a cigarette here and here, all the time. I was always sick. When I moved to Kansas City with my now ex-wife, we went to the pool hall like once or twice, and we'd have to wash our clothes twice from the secondhand smoke. You'd open the door, smoke would literally billow out of the doorway. It was that bad. And she refused to come with me to the pool hall. And I love pool so much that I continued to go despite the cigarette smoke. But that was actually a stress on my relationship, just the fact that one of my main activities, pastimes, involved me being in an environment with cigarette smoke, affected my relationship. So one thing that you can do is you can change the things that you do on a regular basis or in places where there's cigarette smoke, or you can move, or you can increase this and become so good at it that you can actually be in social situations despite the fact that you've been a chronic smoker your whole life, and you can actually be in these situations and choose to not smoke, which is ultimately what ends up happening if you are successful and you understand this 10% thing and you get all of this. Then at some point you can probably successfully hang around people that smoke and not care, and not let it bother you or affect it so much where you just have such a craving that you just have to do it. Oh, let me just have one. I only smoke when I'm drinking, that kind of thing. Only smoke when I'm hanging out with Susie. So, not everybody's like that, and you can actually achieve a level of awareness and ability in your own behavior to quit if you so choose. Spiritual. The cigarette smoking bring you closer to God? Does it bring you closer to the earth? Does it increase your energy and awareness of people around you and bring people towards you? I don't really know the answer to this, but I'm guessing the answer is probably no. And we can just kind of step through that. If you believe in God, Christianity, and God is within you, God is within every cell of your body, and your body and your being human is God's gift to you, and your position in life as a Christian is to do God's will. Are you not poisoning God, smoking cigarettes? Are you not poisoning the gift and the vessel that He resides in, that you are supposed to be doing God's will? Now, I don't necessarily believe in this, but that's just my argument for it. Not trying to start an argument, but that's just how I feel about it. I'm like, it just seems contradictory to me. Also, as far as connection to the earth, cigarettes cause a huge amount of debris, people throwing cigarettes everywhere, and all of the trash that cigarettes create. What about the earth? What about the trees, the packaging? What about the filters? What about the paper that it's rolled in? Are we diminishing the quality of the earth by creating cigarettes, by consuming cigarettes, by discarding cigarettes? It seems like that is also probably a good argument that I don't think there's very many positive spiritual reasons to smoke cigarettes. Intellectual, that's what we're talking about right now. Intellectually, there's a bunch of pictures throughout history of intellectual people smoking cigarettes. But that doesn't mean they intellectually smoked. There's not very many good reasons to smoke cigarettes. Financially, that's a no-brainer. I mean, what are they, like $10 a pack in New York? They're like $6 a pack here, and you get $1 off. You know, it's unbelievable how expensive smoking has become. Now, I can tell you, after I was just thinking about this emotional thing, I have in my life smoked. I have smoked probably 15 to 20 cigars in my early 20s. And then also, when I was 13 years old, I went to the store and I bought a pack of Lucky Strike cigarettes, filterless, mind you. That was a long time ago, it was like 1985, right? And I walked around the neighborhood and I smoked cigarettes. I didn't even finish the pack, it made me sick. So then fast forward 20 years later, about that, going through a divorce, and I was heading cross country with a buddy of mine who smoked, and I decided that I was going to smoke one pack of cigarettes during this divorce. And I don't think I finished the whole pack. And then fast forward, I don't know, 8, 9 years later, going through a second divorce, and I decided to do the same thing. So I actually have pictures of me from a few years ago smoking a cigarette. And I believe I may even have those posted on Facebook. And the reason that I have that on there is not for the contradiction of what I'm saying versus what I'm doing, but just in case that comes up and somebody says, hey, look, he says he's against smoking, but there's pictures of him with cigarettes, I want to preface the reason for that. And I don't regret doing that as a process. It was an emotional punishing of myself. And basically what I was doing is I was going through a wave, and I was using that to try and get back down here, or actually to increase my awareness. I would sit there and I would just look at the cigarette as it burned, and I would watch it burn. So me sitting there watching the cigarette burn actually was increasing my presence, because I was very present in the process of watching the cigarette burn, watching the paper as it got smaller, watching the ashes fall off, watching the smoke rise. And it was bringing me more into a present moment, but I knew that it was not something that was healthy for me, and it was not something that I was going to do, and I knew exactly why I was doing it. But I wouldn't encourage others to do the same thing. So. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here, and I think I've basically said all I really want to say on this subject right now. Okay, thanks. Mend yourself.